Hi everybody, I thought today we'd have a quick look at some of the comics from your comic book collection. There isn't all of them, just picked some at random, just picked a good handful. And start as we mean to go on is Everybody vs Supergirl. That's exactly what you want from a cover image, isn't it there? Just your goodie completely outnumbered and outgunned. Well, not outgunned but outnumbered, and that's a great, always kind of fascinated by these kind of styles of comic. That's a great comic. Zombie World, home for the holidays. This was way before the huge zombie craze, how everything's now like sort of zombies with everything, Zombievers, Cockneys versus Zombies. It's kind of a rip-off of Night of the Living Dead, just in terms of story, but I guess everything's a rip-off of Night of the Living Dead, right? But that's another good comic. Which one's this? Night Thrasher. Kind of a cool, shiny cover. I got this from one of the, long box bargain bin type things. I don't think I've ever really looked through it properly, so it'd be a good sort of chance to give it another run, really. But Meteor Man. So like one of the comics from Halloween. Bruce Wayne. It's like Sean Connery. Bruce Wayne, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's an Algam comic. It's really good when there's all that crossover period stuff happening, like Marvel versus DC and everything. That was kind of good. It was like punching there. It was an interesting advert for Weird Science. What the hell's it called? Weird Science, the TV series. British comic, 2000 AD. Obviously famous for things like Judge Dredd and everything like that. Kind of great advert on the back there. What's this? What in the world could taste so great? Fly on Concorde. How about that for a prize? You can't do that anymore. They took a step backwards. It's ironic for a comic that was kind of almost futuristic. And this is one of the best sort of comic type magazines ever. Look at this. Mad Magazine's TV's most original family. It's one of the most original magazines though. It's where I get so much of my comedy from stuff like this. You've got the fold in where you have to try and sort of get one image and sort of fold it into two. I can barely even do it when I'm looking at it, but and it's got like Spy versus Spy, Alfred E. Newman, great comedy in there. Mad, obviously. Martha Washington Saves the World. Frank Miller, Dave Gibbons. Obviously Frank Miller doesn't, Frank Miller. I remember really enjoying this comic book back in the day. I have to give this another look because I remember really enjoying it, but I can't remember nothing about it. That's a kind of a cool comic. Robin. Been a big fan of Robin. I know a lot of people just think probably he's a character, but I've always kind of liked Robin, and sort of I could never imagine if I had the chance to write a Batman story. I could never imagine writing a Batman story without Robin in it. But yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, it's Batman and Robin, not Batman and Steve, right? Oh, oops, it's gone too far. Phineas and Ferb. I was always kind of a little bit disappointed with myself really, because when I first started looking at cartoons like Phineas and Ferb regular show, I always remember thinking, oh, not quite as good as the cartoons I grew up with, really stylized, not realistic looking animation. Phineas and Ferb's a great cartoon, great computer games, and just great sort of characterizations, lots of heart and soul in that. Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. I don't know, I must have always been really anal retentive, because this has still got the free gift on all these years later. And can you believe we couldn't use the word Ninja Turtles in the 90s? We were still like to call them Hero Turtles. Michelangelo hasn't got his nunchucks there, just two separate chucks. Hero Turtles. Excellent. Thundercats and Galaxy Rangers. What's interesting about that, I really loved the comic Galaxy Rangers, and it ran for 9 issues. And as a kid you think, oh, it's just been incorporated into Thundercats, you don't really think much of it. And as an adult you realise anytime anything gets incorporated into another magazine, basically means it's just being flushed down the toilet because nobody was interested in it. But I still like Galaxy Rangers, well, and Thundercats for that matter. Talking about Galaxy Rangers though, it's interesting because I grew up watching Lone Ranger on TV and Clint Eastwood, John Wayne westerns, and kind of progress. Even though this is a newer comic than Galaxy Rangers, it seemed funny that growing up with things like Lone Ranger, then going into Galaxy Rangers, but this is a great comic, some great artwork, and it really sort of, you know, captures that spirit of the West, and Wild West is cool. Fams. It's interesting as well to me what comics do and don't sort of capture my imagination, because obviously there's certain comics that you just can't help but sort of, you know, like if it's Batman, Superman, all that kind of stuff, you just instantly sort of, you know, inure to it kind of thing. But I really enjoyed Vamps. I ended up getting about 8 issues of it, and you know, there was these like little short mini series and stuff. This is like 1 of 3, so that Vamps was pretty cool. This is another comic as well that I got cheap from like a bargain bin, and it's DC, but it just kind of reminds me of like a knockoff the Joker. I don't think I've ever really properly read this. What's this? Dr. Franken Game Boy advert on the back. Yeah, well, let's give this another go, because you know, just like any kind of DC variant is kind of cool. Transformers, 22nd August, 87. What's the price? 32 pence. I always remember getting this, and sort of, it's like a really cool story of this rust monster that's like attacking the Autobots, and I think, no, they're all gonna die. So that's a cool comic. I'll have to check that out. Haha. See if you can spot. I don't know why. Punisher, great comic, but this cover always makes me laugh. Come quietly, or there will be trouble. Talk about Punisher though, it leads me to this. What's always really funny about this this shirt though, is it always looks like distressed, and it's almost like the effect on it looks like it should glow in the dark. It doesn't glow in the dark though, which is rather unfortunate, but never mind it. What's this one? What's going on there? Avengers West Coast. Was there an East Coast Avengers? That's one thing as well I always think is quite funny, but I've been into comics ever since I was a little kid, and my comic book knowledge is sorely lacking, I should say. Even now, if people say the golden age of Batman or Superman, I'm like, what's that? The Nam. What's funny as well, when I got this as a kid, I used to think this was a really great comic, and because I was such a stupid idiot kid, I wonder if I realised that the Vietnam War was actually a real thing. To give that another go. That was another great comic as well that really captured my imagination. I remember getting a few issues of this, like, you know, great like Bounty Hunter comic, and there's a character called Lobo as well. It's a little bit like that. The ultimate animated movie, Action Force the movie, which is of course based on Action Force. Well, it's actually based on G.I. Joe. This is another UK specific thing. We couldn't call them G.I. Joe in this country because nobody would know what the comic book people thought nobody would know what they were, but I think people would have gone with it. Well, still kind of Action Force in my heart of hearts. Makes me want to watch Action Force the movie again. What's this? It's Ghostbusters. That kind of needs no introduction. But what's kind of funny, because this is a kind of pretty much realistic interpretation of the Ghostbusters. You know, kind of sort of a bit like sort of, you know, normal, you know, traditional looking drawings, which is kind of cool. But then this is what I always think of. I can only tell what it is from the back, but I can always think of this as the animated version of Ghostbusters. And what's really funny though, because it's called The Real Ghostbusters, and it's kind of like, what's really funny though, because you've got the Filmation Ghostbusters, which came out before the film Ghostbusters. So when they did an animated version of the like Dan Aykroyd sort of version of Ghostbusters, they had to call it The Real Ghostbusters. So it was different than the Filmation Ghostbusters, and it just created a big old mess. Cool though. Ooh, more Galaxy Rangers. Issue 1 of Galaxy Rangers, no less. I really, really did adore this. Like I say, just everything about it was awesome. You know, you've got like cowboys and robot horses and superpowers, and it's set in space. You know, Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers, unlocking the secrets of the hyperdrive. This is always interesting. Spider-Woman, and we had the Supergirl comic earlier on. I do find this really fascinating in a way that, like, it's kind of almost like you can't really get successful female superheroes even in this day and age, or they always have to be some kind of rip-off or knock-off. And what's really funny though, because I even like things like Catwoman, I genuinely like this film, and I don't see why people have such a problem with oh, it's a female version of this character, or you just don't get the problem with it. But that's kind of an interesting thing. Jackie Chan Adventures. What's kind of interesting about this though, because obviously it's a comic and it's got like loads of, you know, your traditional comic panels and in there and everything. More based on trading cards really, and it came in this cool metal tin and everything. That was a cool thing. This is probably one of my most respectable comics. Like, everybody wants Mark Garruffalo. I know his name Mark Ruffalo, I like calling him Mark Garruffalo. Everybody wants this to become like the, you know, the next Hulk movie. And I got this completely on a whim. I was just in W.H. Smith's. I thought, I don't mind a new comic, and excuse me, everybody's like, oh, Planet Hulk's brilliant. Oh my god! So it's like, you know, it's a kind of a cool thing. Superman. Oh, it's always kind of interesting about Superman though, because I'm really quite a traditionalist when it comes to Superman, but I would like to see more different versions really. When you look at stuff like this and you think, wow, you know, the different things you can do with the character, it's like, it's a shame to just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and it's a shame that Superman Lives didn't come out, but I wouldn't mind to see that because that looked pretty good. What's this one? Talk about different versions of characters. The New 52. I mean, tell you what you want as well about the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. I mean, I enjoyed it, but made me appreciate the Green Lantern character so much. I mean, you've got like, you know, remember just when I brought this comic though, what a great splash page that is. I mean, that's just really awesome. You know, you got like Green Lantern punching Sinestro in the face, and you know, made me realise how great that character was. And you know, I know it's fashionable to like Green Lantern now because things like Big Bang Theory. Oh, Rocketeer. I mean, you know, growing up with things like the Cinema-Ware Amiga game, you know, Rocket Ranger, and obviously it was a version of like, you know, these Rocket Man type things from the 50s, and you know, just the concept of, you know, just being able to get a jetpack into a car and blast off into the sky and, you know, punch Nazis. And then like, what's really good though as well is, you know, it's kind of like one of those things where I've only sort of flirted with the idea of getting a tattoo a couple of times, and it'd either be Godzilla or Rocket Ranger or Rocketeer, and it's just perfect really. This one's a couple more to go. Darkman. What's kind of really good about Darkman though, because it's such a great movie and it just lends itself so much to sort of the comic sort of, you know, the comic world, and you know, obviously Sam Raimi, a big comic book fan, obviously did the Spider-Man movies and stuff. Now I can tell what this is from the back. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Again, so much of this, you know, came from, you know, comics, cartoons and everything. I remember just flicking through this earlier on, and Eddie Valiant actually looks like he kind of looks like Dick Tracy, which is kind of probably intentional. This is a bit this is Star Wars. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, the continuing adventures of Wedge Antilles. What's really funny about Star Wars though, because obviously, you know, the first 6 movies and obviously the 7th movie coming out soon, but anything expanded universe, I like it, but it takes me a long time to warm to it, even like the Ewok movies and things, and you know, but you know, obviously you can't really go wrong with Dark Horse Comics, pretty cool. Oh, what's this one? Tales from the Crypt. I mean, it's obviously a reissue, as far as I know it's a reissue, but obviously influenced people like Romero, and you know, created the comic book code and got blamed for all kinds of things. But these kind of comics have got great morals really, and you know, it's great old-fashioned ghost spooky stories, things you'd read around the campfire and things like that. And that's about the last one. The Shadows, kind of another old-fashioned comic. This is Dynamite Comics, so it's a bit more recent, but Alec Baldwin made a film in this great, you know, old-fashioned, almost like Dick Barton or Valentine Dial, Man in Black and things like that. But yeah, another great comic. I say just pick some there at random, but hopefully I'll go into a bit more detail on the website setrex.co.uk, and thanks for watching, and that's Ben Affleck. See you later everybody.